I think it's not just Israel's battle. I think it's our common Judeo-Christian civilizational battle. And I think we have to engage in that battle as forcefully, with as much resolution as we engage the other 7 fronts. I think it affects not only Israel, it affects America, it affects our alliance, it affects the future of Western civilization. And I don't think I'm exaggerating one bit.
During Prime Minister Netanyahu's recent visit to the United States, while he was in Florida, he met with a large group of Christian leaders, of evangelical Christian leaders, and he had some amazing things to say about Israel's relationship to Christians. Let's take a look.
Representatives of the Christian Zionists who made Jewish Zionism possible. It's hard for me to conceive the emergence of the Jewish state, the re-emergence of the Jewish state, without the support of Christian Zionists in the United States, also in Britain, but the main thrust was in the United States in the 19th century.
Now, this is a pretty incredible thing that Prime Minister Netanyahu just said here. In fact, if you go back to the beginning of the Zionist movement, there were Christians who were pushing this whole thing as early as the Jews were. Back in the 19th century, there were a lot of Christians who donated to help the Jewish immigrants who were arriving in the land of Israel in the 1800s. In fact, there's a housing development in the old city of Jerusalem called Batei Machse. Everyone in Israel knows about this place. They know that it's where a lot of Jews lived in the late 19th century, early 20th century, in the old city before the War of Independence, where the Arab armies threw the Jews out. And that housing complex, a lot of people don't know this, was built primarily with donations from Christians from Australia. And there was also a pastor by the name of William Heckler who helped Theodor Herzl, the founder of the Zionist movement, in the early days, introducing him to Kaiser Wilhelm and helping open all sorts of doors for him in the European political establishment. And William Heckler and a group of other Christians who were supportive of Israel were at the first Zionist Congress when the Zionist movement first started. They weren't voting members, but they were there. Bottom line is that Christians were in fact involved in helping found the state of Israel from the very beginning. Let's go back to what else Prime Minister Netanyahu had to say.
So Christian Zionism facilitated the rise and success of Jewish Zionism. And it's been an enormous partnership since then. I've known some of you. Mike, how long have we known? Since we were teenagers, something like that? A long time.
46 years.
46 years, since we were a little more than teenagers. But I can say that we have no better friends, and I mean that sincerely. You have stood by us through thick and thin, and now we're challenged by new challenges, but equally with new opportunities. We've fought, as you know, a 7-front war, and we've come out in many ways victorious, but there's an 8th front, and that's the front for the hearts and minds of people, especially young people in the West, and for me, especially in the United States, and for me, especially on the conservative wing of the United States. And I think it's not just Israel's battle. I think it's our common Judeo-Christian civilizational battle. And I think we have to engage in that battle as forcefully, with as much resolution as we engage the other 7 fronts. I think it affects not only Israel, it affects America, it affects our alliance, it affects the future of Western civilization. And I don't think I'm exaggerating one bit. I have here my colleagues, Israel's ambassador to the United States, to the United Nations, our consul general in New York, our consul general in Miami, and every one of my delegation. We feel that this is a theater that has to be engaged with great force.
Yeah, so this is another incredible statement by Prime Minister Netanyahu, just reframing what Israel's been through as fighting for Western civilization against this Islamic enemy. You know, if you go back to the beginning of the war, shortly after October 7th, among the riots that the left and the pro-Hamas demonstrators were doing in Western cities, shortly after October 7th, where you had Thanksgiving 2023, and then right after Thanksgiving, there was the Christmas tree lighting at Rockefeller Plaza, big event that happens in New York every year, a Christmas tree lighting. And there were pro-Hamas demonstrators who were disrupting the Christmas tree lighting and screaming slogans like Christmas is canceled until Palestine is free. And they also did the same thing, disrupting the Christmas shopping season in London and other places in Europe. They interrupted the Christmas performance at the La Scala Opera in Rome because of their support of Hamas and their hatred of Israel. And on Easter Sunday in 2024, the first Easter after the war broke out in Israel, the Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York was interrupted by pro-Hamas demonstrators who were screaming anti-Israel, pro-Hamas slogans. Now think about this for a second. Israel is a Jewish state. We have a Christian minority in Israel, but it's a Jewish state. Why would the enemies of the state of Israel, the supporters of Hamas, be attacking Christmas and Christians in the name of their hatred of the Jewish state? But it all is connected. You see, we have to listen to our enemies. It's all connected because the hatred of Israel by the Muslims, by the left, and their hatred of biblical faith, whether it's Christian or Jewish, is really the same. And this threat to Western civilization that you get from Muslims is a threat to Jews and Christians together. And Prime Minister Netanyahu is reframing what's going on in Israel and explaining to everybody that's what this war is really about. But then he really dropped a bombshell. Have a look.
Who's to engage in us in this? It's us. It's you and us. And we have to, we have to be, I think we have to stand up and be counted. They have to hear our voice. There are some people who believe that, that faith should be silent and terrorism should be understood. No. Faith should speak its voice and terrorism should be confronted, not understood, confronted and defeated. And that is what we're engaged in right now. So I want you to know that I spoke with President Trump yesterday. I said this publicly too. I see the battle against us and the battle against our Judeo-Christian tradition basically being waged around the globe. And it's waged primarily by two forces, radical Shiite Islam and radical Sunni Islam. That means the axis that is led by Iran, much battered, admittedly, but still there, and the axis, the Sunni axis, led by the Muslim Brotherhood, which permeates everything. They go to Europe, they go to the United States, they go to Africa, Nigeria. And we are conscious of the fact that Christians are being persecuted across the Middle East, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Nigeria, in Turkey, and beyond. And we're also aware of the fact, as you are, that one country protects the Christian community, enables it to grow, defends it, and makes sure that it thrives. And that country is Israel. There is no other. None. We are joining an effort to have basically a United Nations of countries that support Christian communities around the world, beleaguered communities who deserve our help. Just as you are helping us, we want to help back. And we're capable of doing that. In Africa with intel, in the Middle East with a lot of means that I won't itemize each one. But this is what our agenda is. It's the main part of our agenda, and it's going to continue with greater force and greater might in this coming year. I want to use this opportunity to wish you all.
Wow. So there you have it. Prime Minister Netanyahu called out the fact that Christians are being persecuted all across the Middle East. Sadly, not enough Christians speak out about this, but it's been well documented. If you follow the news from what's happening in Nigeria, October 7th-like attacks with burning of churches, massacring of families, burning down homes, killing Christians in Nigeria happens on a daily or weekly basis. It was also really significant that Prime Minister Netanyahu singled out Turkey as one of the places that's persecuting Christians, because the Western world treats Turkey as though it's a moderate Western nation. But in fact, they're very much involved in the persecution of Christians, not only in Turkey, but also in other parts of the Middle East. For example, the Turks train and arm the military of Somalia. Somalia is, according to Open Doors International, a Christian watchdog group that monitors persecution of Christians all over the world. Somalia is the second worst place in the world after North Korea to be a Christian. Christians who are found to be Christian in Somalia get killed. The churches are illegal and get burned. And this is all with the support of the Turkish government. And that's why, it's so significant that Prime Minister Netanyahu recently recognized the independence of Somaliland, which is a breakaway from Somalia, and it actually is moderate. And this whole pledge by Prime Minister Netanyahu to support persecuted Christians in the Middle East is huge. I really hope that he follows through on it. But it is true what he said. The Christian minority in Israel is the only Christian community in the Middle East that lives totally freely. Their churches are protected. Their communities are protected. So, this is really important, and it's a really important initiative. And it's another sign that Israel is starting to flex its muscles and say, look, we can't just defend our borders. We have to lead the way in fighting the civilizational battle against the forces that seek to destroy all biblically based civilization. That's Jews and Christians together. It's also so important at this time when you have anti-Jewish forces and anti-Israel forces in politics. And you see this a lot on the right now in America with people like Tucker Carlson, who are trying to drive a wedge between Jews and Christians, trying to say that Christians shouldn't be supportive of Israel. And Prime Minister Netanyahu really pushed back on this. And this is such an important initiative. And I could only pray that Israel does take a lead here and does step in to protect the persecuted Christians in the Middle East, because without protecting them, if Islam can destroy Christianity in the countries in the Middle East where it has the upper hand, as it has done in other parts of the Middle East, you have to remember much of the Middle East was Christian before the Islamic invasion. If they succeed in doing that, then Christian civilization worldwide is going to be lost. We all see what's happening in Europe. Anyway, so that's Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech. It was very important, and we'll be bringing updates on this topic in the future. God bless.